So at this time, let me ask our stewardship panel participants to please come forward. Today's message will be a little bit different, a lot different actually. It's going to be a conversation about stewardship and generosity. I'll give you a little backstory. As the stewardship team was planning our stewardship emphasis for this year, we thought that a conversation might be good, a good way to help us learn about stewardship and generosity. Maybe in hearing the stories of real people that are members of our church, we can learn more than we could by just simply listening to the preacher talk one more time. So we asked some dedicated members of our church to bring the message in a more collective way and help us to discuss stewardship and generosity and where it fits in the Christian life. All four of us are in different life stages, have different experiences and thoughts to share about generosity. And as we get started, let me introduce all of them to you. Tom Young has been a member of St. Paul's since 2008. He was director of a federal health plan for 12 years prior to retirement, and has also spent his working life as a postal worker and then as a professional mediator, working with negotiations in management and the union. He and his wife, Louie Jean, are passionate about missions and social justice and following their daughter and grandsons as they finish schooling out in the real world. You might have met his grandson, Matthew, who is an organ performance major at Pomona College in California. He's played our organ here for a couple of different Sundays, and we're a little proud of that. And I'm sure you are too, Tom, so you just a tad. Yeah. Beth McCall is almost a founding member of St. Paul's and is currently on the Marion County School Board, is the executive director of the Marion County Children's Alliance, as well as operating her own fundraising consulting business where she teaches organizations and people how to foster generosity in their nonprofits. She also helps organizations like Open Arms Village, the Hospice of Marion County, and many others raise funds in their own nonprofit organizations. She and her husband Wayne don't have kids at home anymore, but they enjoy doting on their 6 grandkids and watching them grow up way too fast. Kelly Hall has been the director of St. Paul's Christian School since 2007. She and her husband Jason have 2 children in our youth ministry. Hudson is a junior at Redeemer Christian, and Avery is in 8th grade at Ocala Middle School. And they're sitting back there. I know, yeah, they were a lot younger when I started here. And as the director of Marion County's best preschool, she ministers to 150 students. We're a little biased, but hey. 150 students, 28 staff, and 100 sets, more or less, of parents, manages a budget with the help of her school board. Most of you probably know me. I figure I'll introduce myself a little bit. I've been part of the Florida Conference of the United Methodist Church since 2007. Heather and I have been married for almost 14 years. We don't have any children here, but we love to spend time with our extended families. We have 6 nieces and nephews that we enjoy spoiling. I like to say that I'm the fun uncle. 3 of our nieces and nephews live in South Florida, 3 in Birmingham, Alabama. We love being with them whenever we can. I'm also a member of the district leadership team here at the North Central District, where we act as sort of a church council for all of the district's 87 churches of the North Central District of the Florida Conference. So with that being said, we've really just had one question to discuss today. We're trying to keep it simple, but and they're welcome to say anything. I haven't screened their answers or anything. So, but at this point in your life, why is generosity and good stewardship important to you?
Well, I believe very strongly that if God gives you a blessed life, that you have a responsibility to give back. And I've lived my life like that. I will continue to live my life like that. St. Paul's, since 1976, has been a very big part of my life. I learned at an early age through my father, my sister and I both learned at an early age that giving to your church is your responsibility. That is the way you show your respect, your loyalty, and your love for our Savior. And St. Paul's has rooted me, my family, my sister and her boys when they moved here, my brother-in-law and his mom who joined our church many years ago. And it has blessed my life My music for so many years allowed me to win awards, to do things for me, and I realized that it was then in 1976 time to give back. And so that's when I moved here and helped start the music program at St. Paul's.
I'm thankful for Beth McCall because without her, we would not have this wonderful preschool that I'm honored to be the director of for the last 12 or 13 years. I'm losing count. But it is a blessing each day. Generosity looks a little bit different in my life right now in this stage. Sometimes it comes with giving a check to the church. Sometimes it's my time. My time is very important, especially with raising children and being entrusted in this beautiful ministry at the school. And I think it's important to say that sharing your time, not just your money with the church, is so vital. I've learned to be generous from all of you sitting here, whether it be the ministry that you lead, whether it be Piece by Piece, United Methodist Women. I'm just surrounded by so many of you that give so much. I've been to many churches. I'm 43. I've been coming here since I was 18. Jason and I got married in this very church this month, 20 years ago. We stood right here. And we've been really blessed. Sometimes we think that generosity is just giving money, but really it's giving your gift of time. And the people here are always so kind with their time. Throughout the week I'm here for many hours, of course, so I see people that are coming in and out of the church, sitting at the desk, folding the bulletins, tidying the pews, cleaning up the playground, practicing music. And it's such a blessing to be a part of this church and the generosity that people give. Never underestimate the time that you give. Sometimes it's so important to someone, whether it's a kind word, a hug, checking on somebody, a meal. I see those things here all the time. Sometimes the gift that I'm giving at school may not be just directing the school. It might be giving a mama some hot coffee in the morning and changing her child's diaper in the parking lot because they need 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all they need. Maybe it's being here for Parents' Night Out, which some of you do volunteer for. Parents need to come here from 5 to 8 p.m. on a Saturday night because they just need to remember why they love each other and drop their children off to this ministry. It's a big deal. So I want to thank you for continuing to let me be a part of this ministry where I can share and be generous with not just my money but my time. And I'm honored to be a part of it with all of you. So thank you.
First of all, I got to say that kind of honored to be one of the thorns with 2 roses between us, so that kind of makes for a nice morning. I looked at it, mentioned that we were going to talk about being generous and generosity, and you look in the dictionary, and there are all kinds of words, being liberal and munificent and extravagant and so on. Generous in my own life, and one thought is this time of year when I get a couple of nice big pieces of turkey and a generous portion of my wife's dressing. So but in turning to the Bible, when we started our Disciple Plus 12 project here earlier in the year, looked at some verses, and one of the ones that has always struck me, and it's no doubt familiar to everyone, comes out of 2 Corinthians. Or 2 Corinthians, for some of you maybe, I don't know. It's chapter 9, verse 7. Everyone should give whatever they've decided in their heart. They shouldn't give with hesitation or because of pressure. God loves a cheerful giver. And I think what we've heard already is that's what goes on here at St. Paul's. Folks that responded to the program with the Disciple Plus 12 have done so and continue to do so, and it's done in a manner that's cheerful and generous, and to whatever extent they're able to do that. But as I listen to Beth and Kelly talk about the things that have gone and do go on here at St. Paul's, it strikes me that generosity is a spirit. There is a spirit that permeates this sanctuary, this church, the preschool, these grounds, that you won't find the definition in a dictionary, I don't believe. You find it as a feeling, as a touch, as a nudge, as someone who just says good morning, or gives you a well wish, or says a little extra prayer. And that's what I see here, that's what we feel here for the years that we've been here at this church, that there's a generosity of spirit in this church that translates into the giving of time and money and energy to make this a place that we can come to and worship and believe that we have purpose in this life, that God has granted us all that we need, and that it gives us the opportunity to go out and share as these folks do, as all of you do, not just amongst the congregation here, but as we go out into this mission field and touch other people with that spirit that God has granted us, the grace that we have experienced by being members of St. Paul's.
Thanks, everybody. Part of a verse that means a lot to me on stewardship is Psalm 24:1, which is, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants too." And you've all touched a little bit on that aspect, and I'm here as the baby of the panel. As I mentioned before, my work is in nonprofits and churches, and so I come to this a little bit differently. But as I was always taught at a very young age by my parents most of the time, that this is God's world and we're just taking care of it. But I do remember one time when I was at this, my dad had a river camp house, and he was changing the oil on the boat motor. We had a little pontoon boat, and it was before he put it out on the river, we were going to change it. And I remember very specifically, he just emptied the oil right there in the driveway. And I was like, "Dad, are you going to, that's going to go into the river, it's going to go into our drink, what are you doing?" He's like, "Well, it'll take a while for it to percolate down there anyway, so, it'll be fine. And, it'll take 30 or 40 years. I'm like, "Thanks, Dad. I'll be about 45, 50 years old." And so, to me, that was my first kind of okay boomer moment, I guess. But it was, that to me was something that always kind of sticks in my head, that, we're managing God's world. And it's not, and God, sometimes we hold back from practicing a generous life because we think that we don't have enough. But in fact, we have God's world. And He's given us amazing gifts. And sometimes just the simple mindset change of realizing that God is extremely generous to us helps us to live life more generously. And I do not mean just financially. I've heard people talk about generosity as an entire lifestyle that's like living life with an open hand instead of a closed fist. And how many times do we give life a closed fist with our acts of selfishness and with our own acts of pulling back and not giving someone that hug, not giving someone 2 seconds worth of a smile on our face. And it's things like that that really can add up. And especially in our polarized climate and all the crazy things that happen around our world, sometimes we get scared and we feel like there's scarcity all around us, and so we want to protect what we have, and we're scared to give it out into the world and give it to those others that we may not know. But really, if we're managing God's world, then we're managing an amazing gift. And so I try to think of, what will God say in this moment of my stewardship of someone? Because I'm called to be loving and caring and I preach for a living. I have to do it. It's what y'all pay me for, right? And sometimes, I'm human too. And you get this attitude, well, I don't want to care for anybody except myself right now. I don't want to, but then when you get into that attitude, and we all do it, whether you work for a church or not, I'm sure, that, we can so easily slip into that closed fist kind of mentality. When in reality, God has given us a beautiful world, amazing gifts of people that love us and care for us. And just imagine for a minute if we practice that kind of stewardship with each other, with our church, if we practice that kind of generosity in our hearts, imagine what a different world we would have. And many of you practice amazing stewardship on a daily basis. And that is a wonderful example we have to follow and to pass on to others. So without getting too preachy, because I told them they would help with the sermon and that I wouldn't preach it, that's just an image that I'd like for us to have. If the world is the Lord's and everything in it, what an amazing gift we have been given. And our response should be one of joy and love and care for each other and care for our world too. So thank you all for your help and for your comments today.